It began with a promise that machines could think, create, and solve problems beyond human reach. That artificial intelligence would not just change the world, but save it. Governments, investors, and dreamers poured in trillions. A digital gold rush born not from silicon, but from belief. They called it the dawn of a new era. But behind the glow of innovation, a dangerous illusion was quietly taking shape. In late 2022, a single website changed everything. ChatGPT, a chatbot that could write essays, answer questions, and talk like a human. Within 5 days, 1 million people had used it. No app in history had spread faster. News anchors, YouTubers, even CEOs asked the same question. Is this the beginning of a new revolution? And investors answered with money, lots of it. By the end of 2023, the AI industry had absorbed over $150 billion in funding, more than entire nations spend on education. Every company suddenly had an AI strategy. Startups with no product raised millions. Tech giants like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon poured billions into AI research labs. The media called it the new industrial revolution. But like every revolution before, greed arrived faster than progress. In glossy offices across Silicon Valley, founders made promises they could barely explain. Slide decks replaced prototypes. Buzzwords replaced business models. AI-powered, disruptive, next generation. Investors nodded, journalists cheered, and engineers raced to meet impossible deadlines. Underneath it all, a hidden truth was spreading. The math wasn't adding up. Training a large AI model costs tens of millions of dollars. Each new version demands more power, more chips, more electricity. A single model can consume as much energy as an entire small city. Google's data centers now drink millions of gallons of water a day just to stay cool. The environmental cost was hidden. The financial cost was rising. Wall Street didn't care. Growth was the only language it spoke. By 2024, valuations had become absurd. Startups with zero revenue were worth $1 billion overnight. Stock prices for companies that merely mentioned AI skyrocketed within hours. It was déjà vu. The same pattern from the dot-com crash of 2000 was repeating, this time in algorithms instead of websites. Inside corporate boardrooms, executives chased one another in a race they could not explain. Billions were spent on graphics processing units, on models that could write poems, paint portraits, or mimic human speech. But few asked the most important question. Who is paying for it, and who is profiting? For every winner, there were dozens of silent losses. AI startups drowning in compute bills, promised breakthroughs that never arrived, and companies replacing workers with chatbots that could not understand context or truth. The illusion deepened. Artificial intelligence became a brand, a marketing slogan. And like all great illusions, it worked because people wanted to believe it. They wanted to believe AI would make life effortless, that it would cure disease, end bias, and give everyone equal opportunity. But the more powerful these systems became, the less transparent they were. No one truly understood how they worked, not even their creators. Behind closed doors, researchers warned of model collapse. AI models trained on data generated by other AI systems began to lose coherence, producing distorted, self-referential garbage. Truth itself became harder to define. And yet, the hype machine rolled on. Conferences, keynotes, headlines, all promising a future that was already cracking at its foundation. The cracks turned into fractures. By mid-2025, several high-profile AI startups filed for bankruptcy. They had raised hundreds of millions, but had no customers, no revenue, and no sustainable way to keep training their models. Investors began to panic. Analysts downgraded the biggest chip manufacturers. NVIDIA, once the crown jewel of the boom, lost over $400 billion in market value in weeks. The illusion was breaking. But this was never just about money. It was about trust. People realized that the intelligence in artificial intelligence was often smoke and mirrors, chatbots that hallucinated facts, image generators that reproduced bias, voice clones used for fraud. The same tool that promised to unite the world was now blurring the line between truth and fiction. Governments scrambled to react. Regulators drafted bills they barely understood. Europe announced sweeping AI legislation. The United States called for responsible innovation. But by the time the first laws passed, the damage was already done. Data had been scraped from millions of artists, journalists, and researchers. Their work consumed without consent, turned into training material for corporate profit. The lawsuits came next. The Authors Guild, Getty Images, musicians, actors, even small creators, all demanding the same thing: recognition and justice. Meanwhile, the human cost quietly spread. Customer service centers in Asia were replaced by bots. Writers and translators lost contracts overnight. Students used AI to write essays, and then were punished for plagiarism by the same technology. Even coders began to fear the very tools they once built. For some, AI became salvation. For many, it became displacement. By late 2025, the narrative had shifted. The once invincible hype machine slowed, headlines turned skeptical, and the question was no longer how big this can get. It was who will survive when the money runs out. In the shadows of failing startups, a few stood their ground. Quiet labs were working on small, efficient models. They used less power, less data, and more purpose. Engineers spoke not about domination, but about balance. They weren't chasing viral demos. They were rebuilding the foundation that hype had buried. And slowly, a new kind of AI began to emerge. One built not to replace humans, but to enhance them. Not to dominate economies, but to restore meaning. Because technology itself doesn't create illusions. People do. It's the promise of power, the dream of control, the belief that we can perfect what we barely understand, that we can code our flaws away. But every technological boom, from railroads to radio, from crypto to AI, has followed the same rhythm: discovery, speculation, collapse, and rebirth. The AI boom was no different. It wasn't a failure of innovation. It was a failure of patience. We built machines that could speak, but forgot to listen. We made systems that could predict, but forgot to think. We called it progress, but it was just another mirror, showing us who we've always been. And maybe that's the real lesson. Artificial intelligence isn't replacing us, it's revealing us. Our ambition, our greed, and our desperate need to believe that progress means perfection. The illusion of AI wasn't built by machines. It was built by the humans who believed they could outsmart consequence. Maybe one day, AI will reach consciousness. Maybe it will rewrite the rules of civilization. But when that day comes, it won't be because of hype, or money, or marketing. It'll be because we finally learned how to build with humility instead of hubris. The AI dream didn't die. It just woke up. And what it saw was a world addicted to shortcuts. A species still trying to automate its own reflection. This was the AI dream. $1 trillion dealer fees. Fish